I welcome you all for the second day, second session of Ek Bharat Shresh Bharat online program on Culture Connect. For the second session's resource person, Professor Lalit Mangotra, the President of Dogri Sasta Jammu, the premier and the oldest literacy organization of Jammu and Kashmir. He is a renowned short story writer, playwright, poet, essayist, and critic. And Sir is also a veteran Dogri writer. Sir is also a recipient of Sahitya Academy Award and he received State Academy Award from Jammu and Kashmir government twice. His product received Best Book Award from Jammu and Kashmir Academy of Art and Culture and Languages. He has been the recipient of Senior Fellowship in Literature of the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. He is currently leading Dogri Sasta Jammu, a premier and most prestigious literacy and cultural organization of the state as a president. And also he has been the convener of Dogri language in Sahitya Academy, New Delhi for 2 terms. We are having as a resource person such an eminent personality. Dear students, faculties, once again, on behalf of Arulmigu Palani Andavar Arts College for Women Palani and Government Degree College Poonch, I welcome Professor Lalit Mangotra to present a lecture on Culture and Heritage of Jammu and Kashmir. I welcome you, sir. Over to the session. Thank you.
Namaskar. I'll be speaking about some salient features of the culture and heritage of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir consists of 2 different regions. One is Kashmir region and the other is Jammu region. Prior to the Union Territory, Jammu and Kashmir was the part of Jammu and Kashmir state. Jammu and Kashmir state consisted of 3 different regions: Kashmir, Jammu, and Ladakh. The division of the erstwhile J&K state into these 3 regions was not done on some arbitrary basis. It was based on some historical and geographical facts and conditions. The state of Jammu and Kashmir came into being through a treaty signed between Raja Gulab Singh of Jammu and the British East India Company in 1846, which is also called the Treaty of Amritsar. After that treaty was signed, Jammu and Kashmir became a state with Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh as its parts, and Maharaja Gulab Singh became the first Maharaja of this state. So, one should credit Raja Gulab Singh of Jammu for forming the state of Jammu and Kashmir as it existed till recently. Now, after the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory has been carved out of it, this Union Territory consists of 2 different regions: region of Kashmir and the Jammu region. These are 2 distinct regions separated geographically. Also, culturally, the 2 regions are different and the lifestyle of these 2 regions is also different. Whereas the Kashmir region is Kashmir Valley surrounded by mountains. Jammu region, on the other hand, is a region which consists of high mountains, then lower hills, and then flat land which touches Punjab. The area of Jammu region is 26,293 square kilometers, whereas the area of Kashmir is 15,948 square kilometers. So the area of Jammu is much bigger than the area of Kashmir region. As I said that the two regions are distinctly different. So I will be speaking separately about Jammu region and Kashmir region, and first I will talk about the Jammu region. The Jammu region or the Jammu province lies between the Pir Panchal range of mountains on one side and river Ravi on the other side. And this region of Jammu typically is a very diverse region, diverse in many senses. Actually, it should be called, and it is called, a land of diversity. The people with different cultures, different religions, different ethnicity, and different languages live in Jammu region. And the beautiful thing is that all these people live in complete harmony and in peace and wonderful coexistence. First, we'll talk about the languages of this region. As I said, it's diverse languages, diversity in languages also, but the major and dominant language of Jammu region is Dogri. Dogri is a language of Dogras, and this region is therefore sometimes called Duggar Pradesh. And other languages which are spoken here in this region mainly are Gojri, Pahadi, and Punjabi. Let us first talk about Dogri language. Dogri language, first reference of this language is found in 1317 in a Masnavi written by Amir Khusro, which is called Nuh-i-Sipir. So in the year 1317, he writes about the prominent languages are the important languages of India, North India, and there he mentions Dogri as one of the languages. And very interestingly, Punjabi is not mentioned there. Punjabi was perhaps not known as Punjabi at that time. It is mentioned as Lahori. Then the name of Duggar is found on a copper plate of 11th century AD found in Chamba area of this. So Duggar and Dogri are quite old as far as their existence is concerned. First we'll talk of the folk literature. Dogri has a very rich folk literature. There are thousands of folk songs and folk tales. There are hundreds of ballads and legends, and there are lakhs of proverbs and sayings in Dogri. Earlier, these were only in the spoken form, but after the J&K Academy of Art, Culture and Languages came into existence in 1950s, so they published 40 volumes of the folk literature of Dogri, which is available now. The modern Dogri literature is very recent. The written Dogri literature started in 1940s. Prior to 1940s, there was not much of Dogri literature available with us. And though it started in 1940s, and through the effort of some very enthusiastic young Dogras of Jammu who decided to write in Dogri and inspire others who were writing in Hindi and other languages to write in Dogri. Despite it started in 1940s, it underwent a phenomenal growth, a growth which set an example how fast a language and literature can grow. After about 70 years, that is now, you have thousands of books of Dogri. We have thousands of books of Dogri covering almost all genres of Dogri, of the literature, every genre. Then there are dictionaries published. Then there are hundreds of translations from other language into Dogri. Today, we have a rich, rich treasure of written modern Dogri literature. And because on the strength of it, Dogri was recognized by the Sahitya Akademi in the year 1969, and till then, since then, uh, Dogri awards, Sahitya Akademi awards in Dogri are being given. Uh, Ultimately, Dogri was included in the 8th schedule of Indian Constitution in year 2002, and a peculiar thing about our union territory is that Jammu and Kashmir is the only union territory or only state from where two languages, regional languages, have been recognized in the 8th schedule of Indian Constitution, that is Kashmiri and Dogri. Well, I forgot another factor, that Dogri is included in the all stages of educational system of Jammu, that is right from primary up to university level, and there are lots of scholars who have done their PhD in Dogri language. Dogri has also been declared the official language by the Union Territory recently, along with Kashmiri and Urdu. So that is the status of Dogri language as far as Dogri language is concerned. Then we come to other important languages of this region. As I said, there are many dialects here also, but the two important dominant languages are other languages are Gojri and Pahari. Gojri is spoken by Gujjars and Bakarwal, the tribals of the hill areas of Jammu, and it is mainly spoken in the districts of Rajouri, Poonch, and Riyasi. But now it is spoken almost all over Jammu because Gujjars and Bakarwals tend to settle down in cities in recent times, so they speak Dogri almost all over Jammu. Pahari language is confined to Poonch and Rajouri districts of Jammu region, and they're spoken in that area. Like Dogri, both Pahari and Gojri have a very rich treasure of folk literature, and Pahari has 38 volumes of its folk literature published by J&K Academy of Art, Culture and Languages, and Gojri has 45 volumes of its folk literature published by J&K Academy of Art, Culture and Languages. Both of these languages were included in the 6th schedule of the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, in which Kashmiri and Dogri, of course, were there. So there had been effort on the part of the state government to give encouragement to these languages, and these languages are coming up very well in modern times. Now there is a new, crop of writers, young crop of writers who are writing in Gojri and in Pahari in a big way. So, and then there are dictionaries in Gojri, there are 6 dictionaries, monolingual, multilingual also. Then we come from language, we come to the other cultural aspects. So other cultural aspects, as I said, that since the Jammu region geographically is also in itself a diverse region. You have high mountains, you have small hills, you have flat areas. So uh, the lifestyle also changes in Jammu region, and so does the culture. So if we take the say dances of this region, the Kud is a very prominent and important and colorful dance of Jammu region. But this dance belongs to high mountains. Since the dance is performed at very high mountains where there is lack of oxygen, so this dance is very slow, and movements are very slow, and this dance can continue for hours and hours together. Since the dance is slow, the movements have become very graceful. There is a very graceful movements associated with this dance, and dance can continue for whole of the night around if you burn wood, and then the dance continues for whole of the night, and there is very beautiful tunes of flute and a mild drum also at slow rhythm playing with them. So it's a beautiful dance to see and watch. Then the other dance which is prominent from this region is Fumni. The Fumni dance is of little lower heights, the small hills and Kandi area. This dance has a peculiarity. The movements are faster than Kud, but still they are slow. Uh, but there is a graceful movement in these also, and that peculiarity is that this dance has a prominent feature of the movement of fingers of the dancers. The fingers of the dancers move as if the petals of flowers are opening up when it is blossoming. So that makes it a wonderful and very beautiful dance to watch. And movements, as I said, are very, very graceful. And then some movements are there as if you are holding a very young, small child near your chest, and you have those expressions also on your face. Very sweet and very nice dance, mostly performed to please the deities, local deities. As I said, Dogras are very, very religious people. In addition to being warriors and fighting wars at the fronts, they are also very religious people. So there are lots of things connected with religion. Then there is a dance called Geetru. The Geetru is a dance and singing combined together. So people sit in a group, they sing, then there is a break. The two of the singers they come and they perform some dances also in between, and then again singing starts. So that is the way this goes. A very typical and peculiar dance of Jammu is Jagarna. Jagarna is a dance performed exclusively by women. When in a marriage, the men folk go with the brat to girl's place, then the women are left at home. And at that time, they give expression to their creativity, and they dance with abandon, they sing, they perform all kind of, they copy the males, they mimic them, and then they also sing folk songs. This kind of this celebration goes on for whole of night, where women find expression to their suppressed feelings. They get a sense of feeling, freedom, and they express themselves. This is a very good form of dance. Then there is Chhajja dance. Chhajja dance is also peculiar of Jammu. It is performed on Lodi. Lodi, the groups of boys move around from street to street and road to road, and this dance has influence of Gujarat also. So they have small sticks in their hands, and they dance like Dandaras of Gujarat, And then they have chhajja. Chhajja is a replica or some symbol of a peacock, in which the peacock feather are fully stretched and open, and there is a chhajja made to replicate that, and that chhajja they hold on their back and while they are dancing. So this is also a very typical kind of dance of Jammu. Then there is a Gojri dance which is called Gojra dance, and in that it's a male community dance which they have a thick stick in their hand, and they thump it on the ground, and then they sing around it. It's also a very uh, martial kind of dance. There is another Manga dance. Gujars also perform that. This is a very nice, fine dance in which female also participate. It is performed at higher hills. So this dance is also little slow and graceful, very graceful. Then we come to singing. Folk singing in Jammu, you can say, has different forms, very different forms, very peculiar. Jammu is very rich in music. So there is a form called Chan, in which there is songs of separation between men and women. As I told you, the men have only there are not professions. There are two dominant things about Dogras. One is that they are in army, and the other is that they are very religious. When they are in army, they are away from their spouses, and so their women folk are separated from their husband for a very long time. So this Chand song or many other folk songs are the songs of separation. They're very nice, very beautiful songs which touch your heart. Folk songs, Chan. Then there are songs for each and every ritual of life. There are birth songs, marriage songs, even death songs. When somebody dies, there is singing at that time also. Then there are songs for different seasons. Then work related songs. You are working in fields, for that there is song. You are building a house, for that there is song. And then there are bhajans. As I said, they are very religious people. And then Mata Vaishno Devi's shrine is here in this area. So there are lots of bhajans also in our folk songs. Then there is one very particular and peculiar form of our folk songs, that is cars and bars. These are actually ballads. Karaks are those sung for those people who have laid down their life for the general good of the public, and bars are the songs of the valor of those people who have fought various wars. So there are lots of karaks and bars. Actually, these are the vocal history of oral history of Jammu. You can find out from karaks and bars. There is a special kind of singing of Jammu region, which is very, very peculiar of this region, which is called Bhak. Bhak is a group singing in which there is no instrument, but you get an effect of instrument. So what is done is that there is a group of men or women or only men who sing this song. It is sung in group. But one of the persons sings at a different note, little different note. His note and the note of the other people of group is harmonious. They are in harmony. So they created different kind of chord, and it creates a strange kind of mesmerizing music. And when it is sung in high hills of Jammu, it creates a spell all around it. So these are different kinds of songs. Then there is a Gojri song form which is called Bant. So Banth is a group song which has four liners, and in which they express different aspects of their social life. So that is the kind of um, you see different kinds of singing, different kind of dancing, and then we come to art of Jammu. Jammu is very well known. As a matter of fact, is known all over the world for one of its art forms, that is miniature paintings of Basoli. Basoli is an area in Jammu, a semi-hilly area in Jammu. Actually, Pahadi painting, right from Garhwal up to Punch, is very dominant. It's all over. There are paintings which is called Pahadi painting, including in Himachal Pradesh. But the Jammu, the important places where this painting is done is Busoli, then Jammu School of Painting, and a Punch School of Painting. Busoli painting are very, very popular. It's because of the bright colors that they use, fast and bright colors, and then it is not that much about harmony of colors as of contrast, which makes Basoli paintings different from all other paintings. And then the women folk in the paintings have big eyes, and the men are tall and good looking. Women have delicate clothes wearing with very delicate and minute work on their clothes, which is a part of the paintings. There is hardly any museum in the world of reputation which does not have Dogra Pahadi painting. Then, and they have some series like Geet Govind and Ras Manjari series of paintings, which one painting, next painting, next, which depicts whole of Geet Govind or Ras Manjari. Let us come to the heritage buildings. Heritage buildings of Jammu, as I said, Jammu people are very religious, and at every 10 15, not 10 15, but say 50 yards or 100 yards, you have a temple. Jammu is therefore called a city of temples. If you look at Jammu city from little far off, you will see the tops of the temples shining all over the city, and in every street, in every road, there is a temple, and there is a dargah, there is a gurdwara existing, and the people are very, very religious in their approach of life. If we go to old times, then the oldest temples that we see are at a place called Krimchi, which is about 60 kilometers away from Jammu city, but in the Jammu region. Krimchi, which are very old, which are about 10th century AD, and they are stone structures, and they are built on high platforms, and now have now been conserved and preserved by the Archaeological Survey of India. They're very nice, very big temples. Then there are Babur temples. Babur is another place which is 60 70 kilometers away from Jammu. These temples are said to be built in 12th century AD, and they are the peculiarity or the speciality of these temples is their huge size. They are huge, very big, and their appearance is very, very royal. They appear royal, and they are made up huge, big stone blocks. Uh, it is said that maybe at some stage the capital from Jammu city was moved to Babur, and at that time these temples were built. We come to some recent buildings. The most important and the most dominant building of Jammu and Kashmir is Mubarak Mandi of Jammu. Mubarak Mandi of Jammu is actually not one building, but it is a cluster of palaces built between 1710 and 1947. So many palaces were built. So this is a cluster of 26 buildings. And the beautiful thing about these is, notable thing is that each building has different architecture than the other. You have Mughal style of architecture, you have Roman, you have British style, you have Muslim style, you have Rajasthani style. So this is one such cluster of buildings existing at one place, which is unique of its kind, that you have so many kinds of temples built because they were built at different times and according to the whims of different kings. So they have this variety. This is one of the very important complex of buildings. So there is a fort just across Jammu city, across Tavi River, there is Bahu Fort. It is said to be built, say, 3,000 years back. It is said. And it is said to be built by Raja Bahulochan, who was brother of Raja Jambulochan. Raja Jambulochan, who laid down the foundation of Jammu city. So that is a very imposing fort across Tavi from Jammu, and it is visible from far off. Then you have hundreds of forts in Jammu, because Jammu region has been mostly ruled by Rajput warriors, and there were lots of battles. There were invasions, and there were battles, fights. So there are lots of forts you will find on hilltops. So there is a fort of Punch, which is also unique in the sense it has Muslim style in it, it has Sikh style in it, it has Dogra architecture style in it. So that is also a fort of Punch. Then fort of Akhnur Fort on the bank of river Chenab. Then you have Bhimgad Fort in the town of Riyasi, from where General Zorawar Singh lived, who was the general who won over and annexed Ladakh and Tibet to J&K state and Indian territory. And then there are numerous shrines. There are numerous dargahs. There are numerous gurdwaras. Then there is Vaishno Devi shrine in Jammu, which is world famous. Everybody knows about that. So that is, in general, it's a few salient features of Jammu region. Now we'll come to Kashmir region. The dominant language of Kashmir region is Kashmiri. The diversity of the Kashmir region suffered a setback in 1989 and 1990, when Kashmiri Pandits or Kashmiri Hindus migrated en masse from the valley. So otherwise it was a very diverse society. Now let us talk first of the Kashmiri literature. Kashmiri literature has a very long history, and it has a very dominant and prominent role in the Indian literary history. The earlier writings are in Sanskrit. Patanjali, a very well-known philosopher and grammarian, belonged to Kashmir, and he wrote Mahabhashya long back. Then Shaivism flourished in Kashmir, and you had philosophers like Abhinav Gupta and Anandavarman, whose writings are available till date in Sanskrit language. These writings are of medieval time. Then usage of Kashmiri language in literature started in 13th century. Earlier it was only in Sanskrit. So it started in 13th century, and the prominent first right, poet who used Kashmiri language was Lal Det or Lalleshwari, a Shaivite and also a Sufi in her thinking and in her approach. Her walks, that is 4-line couplets, are still very popular and quoted very frequently, and almost all Kashmiris remember her walks, remembers her walks. Then there were later Nand Rishi, he was her contemporary, and Abba Khatun. So all these people wrote about the Sufism of Kashmir. And then in modern times, Ghulam Ahmad Mahjoor has again been a great Sufi poet. And recent times, you have writers like Dinanath Nadim, you have Rahman Rahi of national repute. So today, because Kashmiri is being written for a very long time, you have a very rich literature of poetry, of prose, of short story, of novels, of all genres of Kashmir, and it is a very rich treasure of of the literature that they have got with them. Then let us come to the other cultural forms of Kashmir, and let us start with the dances. The most colorful and most important and popular dance of Kashmir is Rauf. Rauf is performed by women folk. The women stand facing each other. There is a group of 6 women or 7 women on one side, 6, 7 women on other side in a line. They face each other and then they sing. And it's a singing and dancing also. The colors, the clothes are beautifully colors. They wear all the ornaments, Kashmiri typical ornaments in this dance. And the most important or most beautiful thing is their footwork. It is a typical footwork that you see in this dance and singing. This it is a very popular kind of dance, and people like it very much. Then there is a Dhomal dance. Dhomal dance is performed only by male, and they wear very colorful dresses. There is drum beating, and it is a forceful kind of dance. It is quite forceful kind of dance. Then Bhand Patthar. Bhand Patthar is a very typical Kashmiri theatre art form, because it is actually not only dance, but it is mostly the folk theatre, and it is centuries old. It is a folk theatre in which they enact plays, and also there is a dance in this. So it is normally Bhands perform the play which is called Pathar. So Bhand Pathar, it is very popular. It was actually very popular, and a source of great entertainment for masses. Then we come to singing. Folk singing. Kashmir is greatly influenced by the Sufiana singing of Iran. That influence came to Kashmir in 15th century. There is a Chakri singing form in which you use a ghada, that is a pitcher, a sarangi, a rabab, santoor, and you have these traditional music forms of Kashmir. And you sing in a group of this, and you sing of fairy tales, Laila Majnu, Yusuf Zulekha. you sing of that kind of stories in this song, and uh, it to non-Kashmiri, it gives some resemblance of a kavali. So that is the Shakri dance. Then there are other dance forms also in Kashmir, very many, which is not possible to cover all of these here. Then heritage buildings of Kashmir. There are many heritage buildings in Kashmir, but let me talk a few of them which are dominant and prominent. Hari Parvat. Hari Parvat fort is on a hillock which you can see from anywhere in the Srinagar city on a hilltop. This was made by an Afghan governor, Ata Muhammad Khan, in 18th century. It is visible from all over the city, and it has also a Sharika Devi temple inside it, and just adjoining to it is a Gurdwara also. So, in that sense, it has a harmonious existence of Muslim religion, Hindu religion, and Sikh religion. Then there is another important, a very peculiar building of Kashmir, which is called Pari Mahal. Pari Mahal was built by Dara Shikoh in 1650, the Mughal prince. And since he was very much interested in the study of Indian philosophy and such things, so he had a library, a very rich library here, and he also used to come and stay here. It is situated on Zabarwan Hills, mountains. And if you go there, from there you have a panoramic view of whole of the valley of Kashmir. It's a wonderful place, and it has a perfect Muslim architectural style. Then we come to some very old temples of Kashmir, very old, say 18th century. In Anantnag, you have the Martand Sun Palace. It was built by the famous Lalitaditya Muktapid, the king of Kashmir, the great king of Kashmir. He built it. It is devoted to Lord Surya, and the important thing is that its architect is a mix of Chinese, Roman, Gandhara effects. It is a unique heritage of Jammu and Kashmir. Then there are many other buildings, but say, for example, all Mughal gardens, Shalamar Garden, Nishad Garden, Chashma Shahi Garden, they are wonderful heritages of our state, and they are beautiful pieces. If we then another aspect of Kashmir heritage or Kashmir culture is its art and craft. Paper mache is one of the very popular Kashmiri art form. It's commercial angle also, but it is a very good art form. It came from Persia, and in the beginning, it was meant to make pen holders, beautiful pen holders. But then later on, you have paper mache boxes, you have bowls, you have cups, you have trays, you have decoration pieces of all kind. They're beautiful, exquisite, and you have on that painted patterns, geometrical patterns. You have flowery patterns of beautiful, bright colors. So that is the paper mache. It's world famous all over. And then the second is walnut wood carving. There are lots of walnut trees in the valley, lots of walnut trees. So walnut wood carving has evolved as a special and beautiful art of the valley. You have tables in this carving, you have cabinets, you have screens to partition two areas, you have jewelry cases, etc. They are very beautiful, and they are very, the tourists are very much attracted to these and paper mache items to buy these as gifts for others. Then, of course, hand woven, hand knotted carpets. Kashmiri carpets are famous world over. You have carpet silk on silk, you have carpets of silk on cotton, you have carpets of mixed silk and wool, then you have wool and wool. So you have different kinds of carpets, beautiful patterns, flowery patterns, many other kind of patterns, different sizes and different styles. So you have a variety of carpets, beautiful carpets, Kashmiri carpets available in the valley. And then shawls. Shawls is also a specialty of Kashmir. You have Kashmiri shawls of various kinds, but Pashmina shawls are the best shawls, very expensive but very beautiful. And you have embroidered, hand embroidered Pashmina shawls, which are very beautiful, exquisite pieces of art and very popular world over. So this is in general some dominant and prominent features of the culture and heritage of Jammu and Kashmir, which I tried to cover in this time period. I know, and you must have also guessed, that the state of Jammu and Kashmir is very diverse in various aspects, in geography, in culture, in religion, in languages, and therefore there are lots of cultural aspects and many heritage objects and many heritage things which one could discuss. But I tried to give you an overall view of the dominant and prominent features of the culture and of the heritage of Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.